Okay, so I'm insane, and I want to do this, so we're doing it. A power scaling of 12 different Spider-Men to see which one is ultimately the most powerful. This video is one of 5 where we will be discussing the lifting strength and attack potency of all of these Spider-Men. The following videos will focus on speed, durability, armament, and combat skill/tactical prowess. These videos will also be scaling 12 different Spider-Men, so they might be a little long. Those being the live-action Peter Parkers, played by Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, all of the Spider-Men from the Into the Spider-Verse movie, and both Peter Parker and Miles Morales from Insomniac's PS4, PS5 Spider-Man games. I will not be scaling anything from the comics nor the animated TV shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, because these videos are crazy enough as they are. For the remainder of these videos, we will be giving each of the Spider-Men their own name, so that things are hopefully not that confusing. For the characters of Into the Spider-Verse, they will maintain their original names such as Spider-Gwen, Spider-Noir, Peter B. Parker, Peter Porker, and Penny Parker. Miles from Into the Spider-Verse will be referred as Spider-Verse Miles, while the Miles Morales from the PlayStation games will be referred to as Insomniac Miles. Also, the blonde Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse will be referred to as Blonde Parker. Peter Parker from the PlayStation games will be referred to as Insomniac Peter, while his live-action film portrayals will be separated by his actors' names, so Toby, Andrew, and Tom. As for how I will be scaling them, I will be doing this video as a form of ranking as a scale, as their feats move up the chain, and my main analysis and arguments will be focused towards the bigger scaling characters with much more groundbreaking feats. I don't have enough time to make a full analysis of all 12 Spider-Men. One thing to mention is that all of the Spider-Men will be equipped with their classic standard suits. So we will not be focusing on demonstrated feats by Tom Holland's Iron Spider suit, Tobey's symbiote suit, or Insomniac Peter's anti-Ox suit. So without further ado, let us begin. Alright, so for the weakest of the Spider-Men, we have Penny Parker from Into the Spider-Verse. Penny is capable enough to contend with Scorpion for a brief time, but is ultimately overpowered pretty quickly, and this is her only known strength feat. Spider-Gwen is next, more so because she has less feats rather than any anti-feats. She was able to knock out Doc Ock with only a few strikes and throw around multiple doors with ease, but hasn't shown anything above that. Peter Porker could casually lift and throw anvils, and he did contend longer against Scorpion than Penny Parker. I'm going to place Peter B. Parker next. He was capable of throwing both Spider-Verse Miles and Spider-Gwen towards Doc Ock at once, and he and Miles were nearly evenly matched as they tried swinging each other away from sacrificing themselves. But Peter B. Parker has also been restrained and overpowered by Doc Ock multiple times. Spider-Noir is next, and I honestly think this guy is so underrated. He casually threw a car at Tombstone with a single hand, which scales to about 4,000 pounds in a single hand. He also lifted and tossed the hulking Scorpion, where both Penny Parker and Peter Porker were unable to do so. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was able to contend with the Lizard, who was strong enough to tear through metal. Beyond that, he could catch cars with ease. He and Spider-Noir could honestly go back and forth, but Scorpion was already injured by multiple other Spider-Men, plus Andrew fought Lizard pretty early on into his Spider-Man career, meaning he may not have achieved his full strength yet, which is why he's one spot higher. Spider-Verse Miles is next. He was able to contend with Kingpin for a solid amount of time, and match Peter B. Parker's strength. He could lift and throw cars, and with his full strength, could even throw the hulking Kingpin around, who I do believe is physically stronger than Lizard. Both Insomniac Peter and Miles could honestly go in this tier, although I place Insomniac Peter one higher for just because he has more feats. Insomniac Peter has been shown matching and overpowering the hulking Rhino, and matching Electro, who at full power could tear through entire buildings. and it is implied that he has performed the famous Toby train feat, which we will discuss later. Insomniac Miles has been stated to compare to Insomniac's Peter's strength, which is why the two of them are interchangeable. Alright, now we're getting to the top 3 strongest, and so the power scaling is going to go from less of a ranking to more of an actually looking at feat by feat basis. First, let's look at the strength feats of Tom Holland Spider-Man. He has held 2 halves of a ferry together for a short time, which does scale to about 75,156 tons. Although I should mention he did need Iron Man's help in this scenario, but he also had not reached his full potential as Spider-Man, so there are circumstances for that specific feat. Beyond that, he has been shown casually catching a strike from Cull Obsidian, lifting cars with one hand, and even matching the super soldiers Captain America and the Winter Soldier, also while not at his peak. Regarding the strength feats of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, this man was able to halt several train cars from crashing, which would estimated weigh about 300,000 pounds, and Tobey was able to stop the train in only a few minutes. This feat is also supposedly replicated by the Insomniac Peter Parker. Beyond that, Tobey was able to catch and throw away a massive wall being sucked into Doc Ock's sun. This sun was pulling everything not bolted down into itself across all of New York. Tobey literally pushing through this gravitational pull, and with the proper calculations, would put Tobey's feet at, you know what, I'm not even going to say this number, joules of force. He also held a cable car with one hand, which would estimatedly weigh about 15,000 pounds, not to mention it was filled with many children, and Green Goblin was attacking him. Speaking of Goblin, Norman did not believe himself capable of matching Tobey in a pure straight fight, and this was even without the Rage Amp, and he ultimately resorted to weakening Tobey, which is described in the novelization. With a Rage Amp, Tobey was able to overpower and defeat Goblin with relative ease, not to mention that he was severely weakened during this fight. Compare this feat to Tom's 2 fights against the Goblin. Tom was practically ragdolled by Goblin without a Rage Amp, and even with such a boost, the two were practically matched, Goblin even successfully laying multiple attacks against him, although Tom did prove more physically powerful in the end. Another thing to mention is Tobey and Tom's respective fights with Doc Ock. Tom, while facing Doc Ock, performs a very similar strike to what Tobey did during his fight with Ock on the train. The main difference here is that Tom's strike only staggered Ock, while Tobey's strike threw him backwards significantly. Lastly, I also think I should mention that Tobey was able to catch Tom's glider thrust and prevent him from attacking Norman, and held him back for a short time. All this in mind, I do feel that Tobey is the stronger of the two, although it is close. Lastly, we get to who I believe is the physically strongest Spider-Man, which is honestly blonde Peter Parker. He performed the same train feat as Tobey and Insomniac Peter, knocked a car through a window with a single punch. Compare that to when Tobey had to duck and take cover to same car. Held 2 buses with one hand each from falling off a bridge, competed with a monster-sized Green Goblin, and stopped the Collider's gears for a short time, which are statistics I don't even want to analyze. He has feats directly compared to and surpassing Tobey and all of the other Spider-Men, and easily takes the top spot as the physically strongest Spider-Man. Well, this is part 1 of the Ultimate Spider-Man Power Scale. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please stay civil in the comments. I know Spider-Man can be a touchy subject for fans, especially power scaling different Spider-Men. This was just my humble opinion on what I have seen from all the various Spider-Men. Again, this had no personal bias. I just simply looked at all of the feats and considered which ones were more physically strong and more physically impressive. We will be back to do speed next. Speed is the next episode, and then durability, armament and gadgets, and then combat skill and tactics, and then we'll wrap up all of the points at the end.
I will show off the leaderboard for points as soon as I'm done recording, and then I'll see you guys with the speed ranking. All right, see you guys.